I had forgot that I was going to read an excerpt from my second book, Staring at the Fire. I'm not going to do that, but I wanted to kind of show how I have been working out of staring at the sun that I'm doing graphics for. They are not done for my entire series, but I have done a lot of work that I'm ready to kind of just start presenting stuff to the world and making YouTube videos. But this is kind of what I've been doing for like a throughout the writing process. I wanted to make it look like it was like a Myspace blog, and it could be easily like duplicated and people can do their own thing. But Staring at the Fire is one that I Edward Scissorhand in March when I was like, Danny was really sick from November all the way through March, and I was like really depleted. Like, I was like, I'm just never gonna get better. I just, when is this gonna be done? Um, Writing wasn't fun anymore, and I invested a lot of my time energy into a love story that ended up going a different way that we will laugh about later in life, I think, but right at the time, and it just wasn't that great. Um, and I'm trying to just have like a really positive outlook and like put a positive spin on it. But it definitely went a different way than I thought, and I've completely separated myself from the imaginary love story, and I'm just going to kind of go my own road. And this is what I intended on doing. Was to post excerpts of writing to make it intentional and do more of a YouTube podcast, because I've written a lot, and a lot of it I don't want anyone to ever read. It's super personal. It's like, I'm having the worst day ever, and I am going to cry and write real every thing that is going on in my subconscious, and then when you reread it you go, you don't want anyone to read that. So that's why I'm gonna slowly only put super impactful stuff for everyone to read, and then eventually it, I always like to say, instead of if, I say when. So when I get published, will go that will be uh, I seriously doubt I'll ever put a lot of the stuff in there. And again, I am putting a disclaimer on everything to protect everyone's identity, that nobody's names will be used, the stories will be changed, sometimes dramatized to help with storyline, but the events are based on real life events and really what happened. Um, the entire I will only be making YouTube videos on my lessons and things that do not have anything to do with characters. And if it does have to do with characters, it will be in a lighthearted way. Some of my deeper, darker stories will remain in non-video form. I won't be posting those. Those will be something that will just stay in literature and will probably be for my own private diary. That's just something I want to reiterate. As like I post more videos, I'll continue to be going back there. But Staring at the Fire is about how I had to burn my life to the ground and to rebuild. Now that I'm done with everything. This is Staring at the Fire is a lot about just it's a lot of really good stuff, and I a book that I really hated. I couldn't stand it. It haunted me. I hated it. I completely rewrote it. I'm not done with it, but it's pretty much done, and I think it's going to end up being, I think it's going to be like the Prisoner of Azkaban book for the series. I really think that it's where I introduce I'm it's where I introduce like my clairvoyancy, and I talk a lot about my spirits, and I introduce like a theme of my guardians, which would be my angels. And one of my guardians, who his name emulates fire, this is where he comes in. I have recently just wrote the very like one of my last chapters to end, and there's a very dramatic fight scene with the character that's introduced here. who is connected with who I thought who I thought was my great love of my life, but ended up not being. Now, all these people just ended up being characters in my book, and I haven't talked to any of these people forever. What started out as real conversations, real people. I have been on a completely solo mission throughout the entirety. And my guardians have really became the characters in my book. The people in my book are memories, conversations, short conversations, long conversations. But it is important to say that everybody that this is really just me, myself, and I who have done this. And there's a lot of story that's untold that I'll never post a video about, but I will be keeping my main storyline. And that that person is Sirius Black, who you think is a villain and sometimes is a villain, but actually is going to end up being like the big star of the show and the hero. And it's based off of a real person, but I will never use their real name because it's real people. But it is based off a real person, and is really gonna be the like character that follows me throughout, and a big inspiration to my story and why I did this. I felt that it was somewhat of a duty to kind of take what I've learned in my life as far as like addiction and resources and things. And this book has a lot to do with. I do a lot of my core. Now that you burned yourself down, what was the problem? So that's what this book is about. So